Hey everyone, this is Editing Liz here, just checking in and saying hello because I realized I didn't do an intro to this video. I hope you guys enjoy this style of video. It's very much FaceTime with your bestie like kind of vibe, and I really enjoy doing story times, so let me know if you want more. If you want more content like this, let me know because I really liked making this, and yeah. But if you like it, please subscribe, like, do all the good stuff. And I will make more if you want more. Okay, this one I've wanted to talk about for a while. Get ready with me while I talk about a situationship. I just needed to make this to like say my piece and move on. He's also blocked on everything, so I don't think he'll actually see this unless someone sends it to him, in which case, hello. You know when your friends are like, you should trust your gut and like, you know, actually like listen to what it's saying? Yeah, I didn't do that. That's how I ended up in this situation. So don't do what I did, and don't be Delulu. So I met this dude around 1.5 to 2 years ago. We met online through gaming communities. We instantly hit it off because we played the same games and we got along really, really well, okay? So when we started to get to know each other, he actually initiated like flirting first. He flirted with me first. So in my mind, I was like, oh my god, like he actually like thinks I'm cute or whatever, because he literally said that I was cute. So, you know, and then it started from there. We got really, really close. We would play games together. We would hang out all the time. We were getting to know each other. Things just felt like they were going really well. Then as I obviously got to know him, I started to get to know his friends. Like, I look back on this whole situation now and I was like, wow, I was so delulu and just like so naive. I'm so annoyed at myself. But anyway, quickly we start talking a lot. We start spending until 6-7 a.m. together at some point, playing games and just chatting. And his friends obviously noticed very quickly that we were getting very close. At this point as well, like, we're calling each other pet names. Like, we're quite a few weeks into like talking. He says that like I'm his like ideal type, like he would really want to be with me, like we want to go on dates. We lived in different like states, so it wasn't as easy as being like, hey, like let's see each other this weekend. We had to wait at least, I think, 2 months before we actually saw each other in person. Now as we start talking and we're getting to know each other, his friends obviously notice, and this was interesting. I liked some of his friends. Some of his friends I thought weren't really good friends to him, but I digress that he's still friends with them, so what does that say about him? So I noticed in particular that he's really close with this one friend who is female, and I'm not saying that males and females can't be friends, but the way that they were communicating and like, you know, constantly talking and like everything like that, I got the vibe that they were more than just friends, okay? So it actually happened one day. I was streaming, she started talking to me and I was like, oh, like, you know, I didn't really think that like she knew who I was. Obviously she did, but I didn't know if any of his friends obviously knew that like we were like kind of talking and like we wanted to like see where things went. So she starts talking to me and like she seems really friendly, and we're just, you know, talking about games, and she played similar games to us as well. So I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, how long have you guys known each other, blah blah blah, this and that. So after that stream, he actually messages me and he's like, oh, what did she say? Like, you know, what were you guys talking about? I was like, oh, we're just talking about games, and like kind of asked like how long you guys had known each other. And he's like, oh, okay. I go like, why, what's up? And so he tells me, he's like, oh, we were actually in a talking stage, and things kind of fizzled out. Like, I wasn't really interested after COVID happened, like after lockdown was lifted, and we're still friends, but like I wasn't really interested. I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, yeah, like I'm worried that she's like gonna try and make a move again or something. I was like, oh. Me being me, I was like, oh, just like talk to her about it, you know, like shut it down kind of a thing. But he was like, oh, like we're really, really close, like it's kind of awkward, you know, and this and that. I was like, okay. But he told me, you know, there's nothing to worry about, like I'm interested in you, like I want to get to know you, I want to be with you. Cool. Okay. And that for me was like, okay, he wants to be with me, that's fine. God, how delusional I was. Anyways, time goes on and we are talking, and something really bad happens in his life that I'm not going to share because that's obviously not my place. And I felt really terrible for him, and he went through a massive kind of struggle with his mental health. He realized that he didn't want a relationship. That was fine, I respected that. It obviously really hurt me at the time, but I was like, you know what, if you're not ready for a relationship, I'm obviously not going to push you into something that you don't want to do. So that's fine, you know, let's just be friends. Yeah, friends did not work out well for us. At this point, I'm very obviously like, wow, like I really want to date him, I think he's amazing, but we couldn't, so we were in a weird kind of limbo per se of like we both wanted to be with each other but we couldn't. He didn't want to start like a relationship with me because he didn't think it was fair that he couldn't give me 100%, which at the time I was like, that's completely fine. I was justifying this to my friends, okay? I was like, it's completely fine, like obviously I'm upset, but like it's okay, like I get it. He doesn't want me to, you know, be in a half-assed relationship. He wants me to be, and it was bad enough that it was really long distance, so that was also worse. Literally, it was really hard for us to just stay friends. The day after we agreed to be friends, we ended up spending time together on FaceTime. Looking back at all of this, I'm like, why did I do that? You know, like, why did I do that? But I was like, I was clearly like very obviously like infatuated with this boy and like wanted to spend time with him. So I wasn't going to say no, you know? And I initiated, so I'm also at fault there. As time goes on, we go into this habit of saying, we're just going to be friends, we're just going to be friends. And then 1 or 2 days later, we spend time together on FaceTime because one person, you know, says something and makes a joke and then it turns like really heated, if you know what I mean. And that was the constant cycle that we were in. The story gets really interesting from here. So I actually go to his state 2 months after we met, and he picks me up from the airport, gives me like the biggest hug ever, like takes me back to my hotel, we go and get breakfast together. He is grabbing my thigh when we're driving, okay? So I'm sitting in the passenger seat and he's grabbing my thigh while he's driving. We go to breakfast, like I have my hand on his leg under the table at breakfast. Obviously nothing more than that, but I have my hand on his leg under the table. So after breakfast, he takes me back to my hotel, spend a couple hours in there, like stuff happens, okay? Not everything, but stuff happens. Do with that information what you will. But from there, obviously, because we had done stuff, I thought that he really cared about me. Didn't I? We made plans to see each other throughout the week. He was going to come stay in my hotel for one night. He didn't. So I was there for an entire week. I'm pretty sure we spent more time on FaceTime and on the phone than we actually did hanging out in person, which I think is really interesting because there was literally one night that we spent time together on FaceTime when he literally could have, he was at home. He could have been in my apartment with me, but he wasn't. So my whole week was me crying, being like, I just want to spend as much time with you as possible, even though we had agreed to just be friends, but at that point we definitely weren't just friends. I think at the point where someone picks you up from the airport and takes you out to breakfast and then eats you out in your hotel, it's more than just friends. But you know, I've never had a friendship like that. Maybe he has a friendship like that. Anyways, he picked me up on the Monday. We spent a lot of time on FaceTime throughout the week until I saw him on Saturday. I was there for events, so I actually like saw him at the events with his friend throughout the week. By the way, they were inseparable. And I'll get more into that in a second. But They were inseparable. Everywhere I saw him, she was there. Everywhere she was, he was there. So Saturday comes, we decide to go on a date. Okay. We go to a bar, we're watching a football game, we're having food, we're drinking, we are making out in this bar as if we are literal teenagers who can't get their hands off of each other. Okay. We are like all over each other. It is crazy. We were, yeah. Genuinely, I felt sorry for anyone who had to sit near us because we could not keep our hands off each other. Right now, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, he's really into me. Maybe things will change. We had an argument after the Saturday night because he took me back to my hotel, and again, stuff happened. Not everything, but stuff happened. At this point, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I don't get why this guy can't just make things like work with me when he can take me out and act like my boyfriend, take me out on dates and like make out like we're literal teenagers in a bar. Like, he's also telling me like all this stuff that I want to hear, like, you know, like, you're amazing and I'm so glad that I met you and blah 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 blah, like saying all this really nice stuff. Okay, our date where, you know, we're having a really good time. That night that he's at my hotel on Saturday night, he's messaging her the entire time, literally like, I'm doing stuff to him, and then I'm like, do you need to check your phone? Because his phone kept going off 24/7, and I was like, do your friends know that you're here? And he was like, no, not really. And I was like, okay. So I felt already that night like he hasn't told any of his friends like anything that's gone on the last couple of months between us. So he hasn't told them that he picked me up. He hasn't told them that, you know, he's done anything. I felt like shit because he's literally acting and like saying all this stuff, being like, I'm so glad that we met, like, you're so beautiful, like, you know, you would be like my ideal partner, like, I'm really sorry that I can't make things work, because this is what he'd been saying to me the entire 2 months. He was like, you are the person that I would see myself with, and I'm like really upset at myself that I'm not ready. That's what he said to me multiple times. I'm obviously trying to be really understanding, and I'm like, you know, like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. It's okay. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, I understand, because I obviously really want to be with this boy, but I'm like, you know, I'm not going to force him into something that he's not ready for. I get mental health struggles, like, I really get it a lot, so I'm like, obviously, you know, I'm not going to force you into anything, but it is what it is. Obviously it takes two people to tango. I wasn't innocent in all of this. Like, I definitely invited him back to my hotel room, but he didn't have to say yes if he didn't want to either. So he offered to pick me up from the airport, take me to breakfast, take me to my hotel. There's literally a Snapchat of me crying on my sofa in that week because all I wanted for him was to come over, and he said he would, and then he decided that he wouldn't. I was like distraught. Sunday night comes along. I'm leaving Monday. His friends, not the one that is involved in this story, one of his other friends was like, hey, like, we're going out, do you want to join? And I was like, yeah, no worries. No one knows that me and him had just had an argument. We had an argument because I said, it's not fair that you've promised me these things and then you're not delivering. Either just say that you're done with this completely and don't act like my boyfriend, or you actually like do something about it and we talk about it. Because I also feel like I was being led on, and I told him that. His thing was, I never like mean to lead you on, like, it's not like that, I really want to be with you, I'm just struggling. His whole thing constantly was like, I really want to be with you, I'm just struggling right now, so I can't. And then I would always say, well, we really need to actually just stay friends. And then something would happen. We'd go on a date, we'd spend time together on FaceTime, something would always happen. And it was just this constant cycle. And this is where I want to tell myself, like, stop being so fucking delusional and just pull yourself out of it. Like, Sunday night comes along, I rock up to this bar where he and all of his friends were, okay? Because one of his other friends invited me. I rock up, clearly very awkward. He didn't realize that I was coming. So I was like, wow, I'm here. Hello. I'm basically hanging around with like just the mate who invited me, and that was completely fine. But because people didn't know what was going on, I was trying not to like let on that like something was obviously wrong. So I was still talking to him a little bit, still being like, hey, like, you know, how was your weekend been? Like, how was the event? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what did you guys get up to? Knowing full well that I'm so angry at him, and literally an hour before this, we had a text message conversation, basically screaming at each other. But anyway, not actually screaming at each other. I was more screaming at him, but you know, that's fine. We're having drinks, things are going well. I'm going to the bathroom. I was drunk at this point. Go to the bathroom, and his friend comes to the bathroom with me, and she's like, oh, you look really pretty tonight. I was like, man, thank you so much. Obviously, like, not trying to be mad at her, but I was a little bit mad at her, but you know, trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. So she compliments me, we're going to the bathroom. I leave because they're going somewhere else, and I was like, I don't want to go, I'm leaving. So I literally couldn't look at his face any longer. I was so angry, and to think literally the night before that we had such a good night and we had so much fun, and then to turn into this, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm having a fun night. I only came to hang out with your friends. I'm leaving. So I was drunk, I walked home. It was almost midnight. I walked home by myself. Never do that. But I was really drunk, and I messaged him, and I'm like, I'm walking home crying because of you, so thanks so much. Anyways, he pretended to be worried, and he was like, oh, like, why are you walking? Like, you should have gotten a taxi. I was like, you know what? No. I said to him, I'm like, you're not allowed to care when you've put me through this situation, so you're not actually caring. He's like, at least text me when you get home to the hotel. And I was like, maybe I'll text you. Maybe. I spent my final night in his city, in my hotel room, drunk, throwing up everywhere because I was so drunk, crying, hysterically crying. Like, I have videos. It was horrible, but I was sitting there just sobbing. I was just bawling my eyes out, being like, I just want to be home right now. Like, I wish I never met him. I'm so over this kind of thing. Next morning, I'm flying home, but I was flying home super, super late. And he was also staying in the city because he doesn't live in the city. He was also staying in the city. So we agreed that we would meet up and we would talk, because clearly we both, I mean, I cared and I didn't want to end things on a bad note. And so I said to him, I go, let's talk. We meet up, we talk. I apologized, which I shouldn't have done, but I apologized, which was really annoying. I wish I hadn't, because I really had nothing to be sorry for. He apologized for making me feel like he didn't want to spend time with me, which was like, whatever. We decided that we're gonna go hang out, because we were literally just gonna meet up and have a coffee and talk. Then we decided that we were gonna spend the whole day together. We spend this entire day together. We are literally sitting there playing games together at a PC cafe, just vibing, acting like everything's all good. We were playing arcade games, having a really good time, and then he decides to kiss me. Obviously I kissed him back, and I was like, oh, like, maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he does actually care. So we're playing arcade games, everything's all good, and then we kind of get close to each other's faces, and he kissed me. And it was like a welcomed kiss. I was like, oh my god, like, he does actually care about me. Like, everything's gonna be okay. We're holding hands, we're making out again, everywhere we possibly can. Both making jokes, being like, I should just drag you into this change room, because we still hadn't completely done the deed. He wanted, like, not our first time to meet to be us just like hooking up. At the time I was like, oh my god, that's so sweet. But I was like, we'd done so much on FaceTime. I don't understand why that's now, like, you know? It is time for us to leave. I needed to go back to my hotel to get to the airport in time, etc, etc, and he couldn't drop me off. By the time he got back to his house and then came to pick me up, obviously, like, I didn't want him to do that, and he had stuff on that night. So I was like, you know what, don't worry about it. Let's just say bye at the train station. We are both crying, okay? We're both crying, both saying how this was such a good weekend, like, we didn't want to leave. Was it a good weekend? I was sitting in my hotel room crying for the week, but you know, that's fine. But I'm saying, like, how much I'm gonna miss him, and, like, you know, we'll talk soon, all of this stuff, blah blah blah. Anyways, we're both crying, we're both kissing at the train station. He sends me massive paragraph when he's on the train saying thank you for making me feel so safe and so loved, like I appreciate you, you deserve the world. Like, he is like fully laying it on thick at this point, and I'm like crying. Like, I was proper sobbing. It was crazy. I get back to my hotel and I go to the airport, still crying in the back of the Uber, crying on the plane home, crying when I land, crying when my best friend comes to pick me up. I get to my own bed and I'm sobbing at that point, and I message him. I'm like, thank you for the best week. Like, I really appreciate it. Like, shut up. I come back and life was kind of back to normal, except we got closer. He called me almost every day for a few weeks. Every single day we would call for hours, and this wasn't just like a Discord, like, you know, let's game kind of call. He would call me on my phone and we would talk for hours and hours. We were literally like in a talking stage without being in a talking stage, because, you know, he still didn't want to be in a relationship. So we're talking and I'm like, you know what, like maybe he's changed his mind after meeting me, like maybe he will want to get into a relationship. So what do? I bring it up. I'm like, hey, like, you know, what are we doing? Like, what's the plan here? This was like a few weeks to almost months after I had come back from my trip, and I was just confused. Every one of my friends was telling me, cut him off, cut him off. He clearly is just dangling you along, but he doesn't actually want you. So I asked him because, you know, in my mind, I was like, well, I'll get a straight answer from him. At this point, I also had a lot going on in my life. My grandfather got really, really sick. I was living at my grandma's house. I was going through a lot. I'm obviously trying to be sensitive of the fact that he was going through a lot, but I was also going through a lot, and then it wasn't fair on me. I started getting sick of this whole situation, and I was like, you know what? You're dangling me along. I don't appreciate it. Let's just stop talking. Like, I said, if this isn't going to lead anywhere, I don't want to be friends with you at all. Let's just stop talking. Let's never talk to each other again, and just leave it at that. He then says to me, you know, if that's what you want, then that's what you want, and I'm really sorry. I still can't give you a relationship. So that was it. So I thought, because then a few weeks later, we started talking again. And then the same cycle happened, and it happened again, and it happened a few more times. And then I was sick of it. I was done. And I sent him a massive paragraph while I was living at my grandparents' house because my grandfather was in hospital for 3 weeks, being like, this isn't fair. I now feel like you're just taking advantage. Like, you know, you fucking suck, basically. And then I said to him, you and your friendship with this girl is not actually a friendship. It's off-putting. It makes me feel weird. If you wanted to be with me, you would have shut it down, but clearly you don't because you're not doing any efforts to shut it down. So I'm done. So a few weeks before we actually met in person, he went to an event with her. Now, they were going to go with a group of friends, and they all wanted to stay in the city because they don't live in the city. So they were all going to get an Airbnb. He called me on FaceTime and cried because he was worried that she was going to make a move on him if he stayed in the same Airbnb as her. Isn't that funny that you felt really uncomfortable? And yet, the week that I came to stay in your city, partly the reason because I wanted to see you, because you wanted to see me apparently, you stayed in the same hotel as her. Did you stay in the same room? Apparently not. But I don't know. At the time, I had no reason not to trust him and not to believe him. So I believed him when he said, oh, you know, we're staying in different rooms. We're just in the same hotel because she found out where I booked and she booked with me. I was like, I brought it up a few times with him, and he was always like, I do bring it up. It's just offline. Like, you know, I am trying not to hurt her feelings and this and that. And I was like, You're literally crying to me about how you feel uncomfortable to stay in the same hotel room as her, just the two of you, because you were worried that she was going to make a move on you. And now you're uncomfortable? Okay. I bring it up and I'm frustrated because in those couple weeks to months before our argument, after I had seen him in person, so that couple months that I was like home after that, he would go to events and he'd be like, yeah, I'm going here. And I'm like, oh my God, have fun. Like, who are you going with? He's like, oh, I think I'm just going by myself. I would ask her, because I was trying to be friendly, obviously, you know, like I felt bad for her as well, because I was like, I don't really know what the situation is, obviously, like I haven't really been involved that long, but I was like, I felt really bad, and so I was trying to like be friendly to her because she hadn't done anything wrong by me, because I was just assuming that she didn't know that we were talking and I was interested in him, even though I kind of showed it, but you know. So I would always ask her, like, how was your week? Like, what did you get up to? She's like, oh yeah, I did this and like went to this event with him. You know, the one that he said that he was going alone to. I was like, oh, interesting. Like, did you guys have fun? She's like, yeah, it was really fun. And I was like, oh, cool. And I just got over it because there were so many instances like that where I wish like I had cut it off earlier, but obviously, you know, feelings got involved and I didn't want to end things. I got really frustrated and I called him out on it. I was like, you know what, like I'm done. I'm so over it. You know, you go live your life with her because clearly you want to be with her. Blocked him. In a couple months after that, I kind of felt really bad and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have been as harsh on him. So I apologized. Yes, I was the one that apologized. I don't know why. I was like, look, like I just want to be friends. Like, you know, like I still care about you a lot and I think you're a cool person. I still have messages from him, literally. I found a screenshot the other day, which is why I wanted to make this story time, because I was like, wow, I really like went through a lot and like, you know, didn't really talk about it. But after that falling out, I found screenshots of him saying to me like, oh, like I'm really proud of you, like you have an amazing heart and like such a beautiful personality and a beautiful smile, like you're just so beautiful inside and out, like I want what's best for you. Okay. This all took place about a year and a half, 2 years ago, okay? And I would see occasionally he would post like a photo of like wherever they were and it would be off the back of her head and he wouldn't tag her, and I'm like, that's really interesting, because it almost like looked like a really slow, like soft launch. Yeah, they would constantly duo together, they would constantly play games together, and at the time that we were talking and I was interested in him, I thought that was just their relationship, but they spent so much time together. Even when, and like they would message, they would talk constantly. Even when he was in my hotel, both of those times, and he came to, you know, spend time with me or whatever, she was blowing up his phone. Constant messages, constant. Like I would see it pop up and I was like, do you need to answer that? And he was like, oh yeah, maybe. And he would check it and then respond and then go back to kissing me, and I was like, that's really interesting. Like I wish that I had like not been so delusional. This whole time as well, we're like, you need to move on, like it's not healthy for you, he's not good for you, he doesn't actually care, this and that. And I was like, no, like he does care, like he tells me he cares all the time. I hadn't really spoken to him a lot because I was like, why did I put up with that for so long? My friends probably got so sick of me talking about him because I literally was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna find someone that's like as good as him. Like I just don't think I'm ready to date because I don't think I'm gonna get over him for a really long time. New Year's rolls along and I still followed him on socials, posted a photo with her on New Year's, and the hand placement, I was like, yeah, y'all ain't just friends. Y'all are not just friends. Like that is not it. So I unfollowed him on everything because I was like, I'm not going to sit here and have reminders of how you hurt me because you're going to be posting about it. This was obviously a few weeks ago. Fast forward to last week, when I find out, and I'm not going to give details, but I actually find out that they are together. So how's that whole like, I don't feel comfortable staying with her going? I sat there for like months after I had that falling out with him, which was well over a year ago. And I was like, I don't think like I'm ever gonna get over him. Like, I don't know what to do. He was so good to me. And then I find out that they're together, and I have officially blocked him on everything, because how are you gonna sit there and lie to me like that? Like, you clearly liked her. Moral of the story, trust your gut, because I should have trusted mine when it was telling me that something was fishy between those two, and I refused to believe it. And also, if your friends are telling you you're being delulu, you're probably being delulu, and you should listen to them. All of my friends told me this, and I apologize immensely to them because they had to deal with my bullshit, and now look where we are. And also, don't date boys starting with the letter J. It's never a good idea.